There is a disease sweeping across our nation, infecting the minds of millions of people. No, it's not wokeism or Trump derangement syndrome or even Christian nationalism, but it is real, it's deadly, and it's corrupting our ability to know God and make Him known. Today, I'm going to diagnose the problem and offer a prescription for the cure. Let's begin our road to recovery right here on Puddle Road. I first realized we have a problem in the summer of 2019. I was asked to guest speak at a Christian teen camp. It's a really good camp full of really good kids, many of them churched, and most of them sincerely wanting to follow Jesus. I was asked to speak on truth, so I opened up with a real simple question. I said, how many of you have put your faith in Jesus, you have a relationship with Him, and you believe that He has saved you? Almost instantly, most of the hands in the sanctuary went up. Good news, right? But if I had stopped there, parents, hear me. If I had stopped there, I wouldn't have discovered the whole truth. I just happened to follow up that day with another question. I said, okay, so now, how many of you also believe what John 14:6 says? That Jesus is the only way to have a relationship with God and be saved. And I'll tell you that far fewer hands went up. And some of the hands that did go up went up really slowly. Like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. How could that be possible? How could it be that your child or grandchild, or maybe even you, could end up with a belief system like that? How could anyone believe the biblical truth that Jesus died to save me while rejecting the biblical truth that He's the only way to be saved? Well, the diagnosis is a disease called pluralism, religious pluralism, the belief that all religions are equally true and they're all just separate paths, all taking people to God. And you might be asking yourself, like, how in the world could so many Christians believe that? And my answer is, if you look at the numbers, how could so many Christians not? It varies from site to site, but the overall picture is pretty much the same. We are spending way too much time looking into our phones. This is from Statista.com, and it shows the average amount of time that Gen Zers spend on their phone every single day. And it comes out to 365 minutes a day on average. That's over 6 hours a day gazing into their phones on social media, drinking in the philosophies and ideologies and values of the world, just pouring it in unfiltered into their minds and letting it drop down into their hearts. And if you compare that to the number of hours that the average Christian is engaged in actual discipleship, it doesn't even come close to comparing. I mean, let's say that someone is a high attender, right? That they actually attend church 4 Sundays a month. That's an hour and a half a week, weighed against the 48 hours a week on average that they spend looking into their phones. But let's up the ante a little bit, and let's say that they even go above and beyond, and they don't just attend church, but they're also in a small group. What's that, 3 hours a week compared to 48 hours a week of screen time? Drinking in, consuming the values of the culture? Consuming that much social media content has to have an effect. And one of the effects is that it causes you to see everything through the lens of that culture. A culture that screams all truth is relative. There's my truth and your truth and his truth and her truth, but there is no such thing as absolute truth. And that's how somebody can be all in with Jesus. Like I believe most of those kids at that teen camp who raised their hands were, but still understand Jesus and his word and the truth through the pluralistic lens of the culture. But if you're ever going to know the truth that will set you free, then you have got to flip that. And instead of seeing Jesus through the lens of the culture, you've got to learn. You've got to reprogram your mind and heart to start seeing the culture through the lens of Jesus and his word. So, how do you do that? I'm so glad you asked. Here's the prescription for the disease. If you've made the decision to be all in with Jesus, then one of the first things you need to do is start detoxing yourself from pluralism. Romans 12:2 could not be more clear. Paul said, "Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." Those of you who have been transformed by Jesus, who've put your faith in him, now continue to be transformed, to learn of him and to grow into the image of him by the renewing of your minds. Yes, this is a lifelong pursuit, but you need to especially be intentional about it at first. You know, I've been walking with Jesus for a lot of years, and I'm at a place where I benefit from listening to various voices in the culture. It helps me to be a better pastor, to know what people are thinking. But when I was young in my walk with the Lord, man, social media as it is today would have messed me up. All that pluralism, all those different philosophies and value systems coming into my mind hour after hour, day after day would have blurred my vision to who Jesus really is. And so if that's where you are, if you're seeing Jesus through the lens of the culture, here's your medicine. Here's how to free yourself from the disease. First, it starts by spending time in the Word. To get a Bible translation that you understand, you're going to have to it's not going to be the King James, okay? But find you a translation that you understand and make time to spend time in the Word. That's first. You need to get into a good church and you need to be faithful to that church. Don't be a once a monther. Be faithful in your attendance. The third thing is that you need to plug into a small group somewhere, whether it's a men's group or a women's group or a life group, some kind of group with some solid Christian believers who can disciple you and teach you and hold you accountable. And then, and number four, I know this one's hard, but spend less time on your phone, at least for now, as you're learning to detox and to see the culture through the lens of Jesus instead of seeing Jesus through the lens of the culture. But I mean, if you have to be on your phone, right? If it's eating at you and you have to be on there, then try less random scrolling and just be more intentional about what you watch. Find some solid Christian teachers and creators and listen to them. Because if you're not intentional about renewing your mind and getting to know who this Jesus you've placed your faith in really is, the culture is going to be more than happy to give you their version of Jesus. And their version can't save anybody. Well, I don't know what happened over the weekend, but we gained a ton of new subscribers. And if that's you, welcome to the channel. I'm so glad that you have joined the Puddle Road community. And I hope that we can continue to help you see God and find purpose in everyday life. We'll see you next time.